When I was a kid, McDonald's was my favorite restaurant. They were all over town, and I obviously liked the Happy Meals back in the day as well. The closest McDonald's was less than a mile from our house. We lived kind of close to the city, and all you had to do was walk a few blocks to get to a lot of places. One time when I was 10 years old, I walked to McDonald's by myself. I remember that my mom must have been busy with something, but she told me that I could go. I'd walked to and from school before and a couple of other places like the library or a few stores, so this didn't seem like that big of a deal for me. I was just going to walk to McDonald's, get some food, and then bring it back home. To me, the hardest part would be ordering correctly and then getting my order. I left home and walked to McDonald's, which took maybe 10 minutes. After getting inside the restaurant, it was not too busy, but there were a number of other people there. I waited in line and then ordered and waited for the food. I remember that as I was standing around and waiting for my order, this man approached me. He asked me if I was there all by myself, and I said yes. I figured that he was maybe concerned for me. He asked me if I needed a ride, and I said no, I live really close by. He said okay, and then he left me alone. A couple of minutes later, my order was up, and I took it and started walking to leave. The man walked up to me again before I left the restaurant and asked me if I was sure I didn't need someone to drive me home. I told him yes, then I left. So I got out to the sidewalk past the McDonald's and was heading back home. I crossed the street and then walked a couple of blocks. I was about halfway back when I heard a car driving up the street that I was on. The car slowed down and then pulled over just in front of me. I saw that the same guy was driving. He told me that I should get in his car and he would drive me home. I told him that I was already almost home and I didn't have that much farther to walk. At that point, I remembered that the man just drove away. I thought that it was weird how he kept asking to drive me home, but I guess with me being a kid, it might seem like I was lost or something. I walked the rest of the way back, which didn't take too long. However, I remember as I got home and was walking through the front yard, I looked back and saw the guy again. He was driving by real slow in his car once more. He didn't stop and ask me anything this time, and I walked up and entered the house and was glad to be back. But I looked out the window and saw him pull over for like a minute. Then he drove away. After that, I quickly forgot about him for the most part, but the memory ended up sticking with me. I never saw the guy again, but as I got older, the more I thought about it and realized how creepy it was. Was it just an over-concerned person who wanted to make sure that I got home safe, or was he a potential kidnapper looking for an opportunity to kidnap me? I don't know for sure, but I'm hoping that it was not the latter. A couple of years ago, I had a really crazy experience at a local McDonald's. So, I live not too far away from a McDonald's. Actually, there's several that are pretty close by. It's one of my favorite late night places to get food from. I drove there one night at probably about 11 o'clock. It was late, but I was hungry. I expected things to be quiet with it being that hour, and it was. When I walked into the restaurant, there was nobody else around. I ordered on the screen in the lobby and then waited for the food. However, as I was waiting, I looked over and saw a man entering the McDonald's. He walked in and immediately went over to the counter. The man seemed angry and demanded to talk to someone. I was standing a ways away and moved back even farther. The guy started complaining about how the French fries were cold and some other stuff. He was talking loud and fast and was clearly very angry. An employee started talking to him, and they basically were arguing. This went on for maybe a minute or so. After going back and forth, the man then grabbed a cup and walked away to the drink machine. I thought that he was going to leave then. He went over and filled his cup with water. Then he walked back over to the McDonald's employee and threw the water in his face, splashing him. The employee was angry and started yelling and saying that he was going to call the cops and stuff. Then they went right back into arguing. After a short time of this, the man went back over to the drink machine. As this was happening, I heard other employees yell to call the cops. I was just standing there a few feet away, wanting to leave. I should have left, but I was still waiting for my order. When the man filled up his drink again, he started to walk back over to the counter. However, he stopped suddenly and looked over and seemed to notice me. I'm not sure if he even knew that I was there at all prior to that, but I had been literally right there the entire time. The man then said to me, "What are you looking at?" I said, "Nothing, I'm just waiting." He told me to stop looking at him, and then walked over and splashed me in the face with water. He then threw the cup down on the ground and went back over to the counter. I wanted to go over and punch him, but for a few seconds my reaction was delayed because I was not expecting him to do that at all. But the man didn't stick around. He gave the employees a couple final words and then walked out the door. I had started to go after him, but once he left the building, I stopped, thinking better of it. There was no sense in getting myself into trouble along with this lunatic. The cops got there a few minutes later. After that, my order was also done. I didn't stick around to see what would happen. I went home and didn't go back to that McDonald's for months. I'm not sure how the situation turned out, if the man got arrested or just told to leave or banned from the McDonald's or what, but I hope everything turned out alright. I know I was angry about it at first, but now, over time, I look back on it and laugh. In the moment, though, it was a really crazy scene, and I don't know what exactly that man could have been capable of. Many years ago, I was on my way home from work one night. It was really late, and I got off at probably around 11 o'clock or something like that. I just know that I was tired and hungry. On my drive home, I knew that the only place open this late would probably be McDonald's. Without giving it much thought, I drove until I saw a sign of McDonald's off the highway. I took the exit and then drove down a quiet road a little ways until I saw the building maybe a mile later. It was very quiet. I'm not sure if I had ever been to this McDonald's before. I was still a good 15 to 20 minutes from home. After pulling into the parking lot, I saw maybe 2 other cars. I parked my car, got out, and then walked inside. When I did though, I walked up to the counter and nobody was around. There was no one standing there ready to take my order. I thought that I heard voices coming from somewhere in the back, but I couldn't make out any words, and I couldn't see them either. But I knew there were people here. I wasn't all too surprised. Sometimes late at night when places are slow and quiet, people aren't always manning the registers. Also, they might only have a couple of people working at once with it being so late. So I just stood there by the counter and waited. I looked up at the menu, but I already knew what I wanted. Just a classic number 1, the Big Mac meal. So I stood around, and probably another minute or 2 went by. I was starting to get impatient. I wasn't going to walk behind the counter or anything, but I looked around to see if I could see where anybody was. I could not. I called out hello, hoping that somebody would hear me. At first, nothing happened, but then I heard somebody walking over. Seconds later, I saw a man come around the corner, but it was not a McDonald's worker. This guy was wearing black pants, a black sweatshirt, and a black ski mask, covering everything but his eyes. Instantly, I was caught off guard. It took my brain a few seconds to register what was going on. The man started to walk along the counter to go around it as if he was going to walk towards me. It was then that I felt like I should get out of there. I backed up and then just sprinted for the doors. The man in the ski mask actually started to run after me. Thankfully, I was able to get out the doors and leave the restaurant. I sprinted for my car, unlocked it, and went inside. The man did not chase me, but stayed by the door in the McDonald's. When I was in my car, I drove away from there and then I called the police. I told them that I thought the McDonald's was being robbed. Then I drove back home. I found out later more details about what had happened. It turned out that the McDonald's that I went to was actually supposed to be closed at that hour, and it was in fact being robbed. Several masked men had entered just before the place closed. They forced the 3 employees still working to go into the back. Then they made them give them all the money and were trying to get them to open the safe. I walked in right in the middle of their crime because obviously the doors didn't get locked. I'm not sure what would have happened if I had not just left right away. I don't think that the masked man was approaching me to make me a hamburger. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, and the criminals were apprehended. The McDonald's opened again shortly after, but I haven't been there since.